sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
All right, so we're diving into a pretty wild story today. You know that lawsuit against Jay Z and Diddy, the one with those shocking sexual assault accusations?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it just got dismissed.
Really?
Yeah, and we're going to break down all the details using this CBS News article.
Interesting. Yeah, that whole case, it really blew up in the media.
For sure. So let's start with the basics. What was the original accusation?
Basically, an anonymous woman, she accused both Jay Z and Diddy of raping her.
What?
Yeah, at an after-party for the 2000 MTV Video Music Awards.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And get this, she was only 13 at the time.
13. Oh, my gosh. That's awful.
It is a very serious accusation, and you can see why this story got so much attention.
Absolutely. And it's not just rumors, right? She actually went ahead and filed a lawsuit.
Exactly. It was first filed back in October 2024.
Okay.
And then they refiled it in December to include Jay Z in the case.
Gotcha.
She was seeking unspecified damages. And the court granted her anonymity.
Oh, so she's staying anonymous? Is that pretty common in these types of cases?
It's not uncommon. Courts will often grant anonymity to protect the accuser, their privacy and safety, especially in a case as sensitive as sexual assault.
Right, right.
But it also adds this layer of mystery.
Yeah.
For the public, it fuels all this speculation, and it makes it hard to really know how credible the accusations are.
Totally. So how did Jay Z and Diddy respond to all of this?
Well, Jay Z came out swinging. He denied everything, straight up called it a blackmail attempt, even a shakedown.
Whoa, okay.
He was pointing fingers at the plaintiff's lawyer, Tony Busby.
So going on the offensive, was that a smart move?
It's a risky strategy, but for someone like Jay Z with his carefully crafted image, businessman, family man, it makes sense. This accusation could completely destroy all of that.
Damage control.
Exactly. And Busby, he wasn't backing down either. He claimed there was a coordinated effort to discredit him and his client.
Oh, so it's a he said, she said situation.
Pretty much a public battle playing out in the media.
So what happened next?
Well, get this, the accuser, she just dropped the lawsuit.
What? Just like that?
Yeah, voluntarily dismissed it, they call it.
Meaning what exactly?
She basically chose to drop the case entirely, and here's the kicker, she dismissed it with prejudice.
With prejudice? I don't know what that means.
It means this specific case with these allegations, it's done permanently, she can't refile it.
Huh. That's weird. No explanation or anything?
Yep, completely silent, so you can imagine the speculation that's going around.
Oh, I bet. So how did Jay Z's team respond?
They were ecstatic. Rock Nation, his company, they released this whole statement talking about vindication and relief.
So a public victory lap.
Basically, they're using this dismissal to shift the narrative, really emphasize how much they've been through.
Interesting. And Jay Z himself, did he say anything?
Oh, yeah. He released his own statement, and it was more than just denial. He went after the legal system, talking about how easily accusations can be made without evidence.
Really?
Yeah, and he called for equal protection for victims and the falsely accused.
Wow. So he's using his platform to make a bigger point.
Exactly. Very strategic. He's tapping into a sentiment that resonates with a lot of people. The fear of being falsely accused.
Yeah, I can see that. So what about Diddy? Where does he stand in all of this?
Well, his situation is a lot more complicated. Even though this specific lawsuit got dismissed,
okay,
he's still facing a bunch of other sexual assault accusations.
Wait, really?
Multiple lawsuits. And guess what?
What?
Many of them are from the same lawyer, Tony Busby.
Wow, that's a crazy coincidence.
You think? And these accusations, they come from all over alleged incidents at parties in New York, California, Florida.
So this isn't just one isolated incident?
Nope. It's a whole web of legal issues, and there's more.
More?
Diddy's actually been in jail since September.
Oh, wow.
On federal sex trafficking charges, a completely separate legal battle with potentially much more serious consequences.
So much to unpack here. It's a lot to take in.
It is. It really shows you how messy the legal system can be, especially with conflicting stories and, power dynamics like this.
And don't forget the court of public opinion.
Oh, yeah, that plays a huge role as well.
So much more to discuss. We'll be back after a quick break to delve even deeper into this fascinating case. Okay, so we're back, and, it's interesting how Jay Z's case got dismissed, but Diddy's still facing all these charges. It makes you think, how do we balance protecting potential victims while still making sure the accused are innocent until proven guilty? It's
tricky, right? It's like this fundamental tension that runs through the whole legal system and really all of society.
Yeah, totally. And the hashtag #MeToo movement brought so much attention to this. It empowered victims to come forward.
Definitely.
But then there's the whole issue of due process and false accusations.
Absolutely. It's a tough one. And then you have the court of public opinion.
Oh, yeah. Social media can blow things up so quickly.
Exactly. And cancel culture, that's a whole other debate, right?
It is. So are we saying that public opinion can actually impact a legal case?
It can. For sure, it can paint the jury pool, even create this pressure on prosecutors to bring charges.
Even if the evidence might be weak.
Yeah, it's like this parallel trial happening alongside the real one.
So how do we deal with that? How do we find that balance between supporting victims and making sure everyone gets a fair chance?
It's tough. I think a big part of it is having more nuanced conversations,
Okay.
moving beyond just guilty or innocent, recognizing the complexities.
That makes sense. We need to listen to everyone involved.
Exactly. And remember that false accusations do happen, but so does the trauma of sexual assault. Both are real and have serious consequences.
So where do we even begin with this?
Well, education's a good place to start teaching young people about consent, healthy relationship.
Prevention.
Exactly. And then looking at the legal system, making sure it's more trauma-informed, survivor-centered.
Yeah, making it easier for victims to come forward.
Exactly. But also making sure the accused have the right to defend themselves.
Due process.
Right? That's essential.
Okay, so it's about finding that sweet spot where both sides are protected.
That's the goal.
So what are some specific changes that could help?
Well, one thing that comes up a lot is the statute of limitations.
Okay.
For sexual assault cases, there are often these strict time limits for bringing charges.
But what if the victim isn't ready to come forward right away?
That's the problem. Trauma doesn't follow a schedule. It can take years for someone to process what happened.
So are you saying we should get rid of the statute of limitations?
Some people think so, extending it or even eliminating it completely.
But wouldn't that make it harder to defend against accusations?
That's the argument against it. Evidence can get lost, memories fade.
Right. It's a tough call.
It is. But the key is to keep having these conversations, exploring the different angles, and being open to changing the system.
So education, legal reforms, and what about the role of the media in all of this?
Ah, yes, the media, it's a whole other beast and a crucial part of this conversation.
For sure, because it's not just the courtroom, it's the court of public opinion, too.
Absolutely, and we need to be aware of how media coverage can shape that narrative and even impact the legal process itself.
Yeah, it's crazy how one accusation can become front-page news instantly.
It's the internet age, right? Everything spreads so fast.
And then everybody's got an opinion.
Yeah, and it's not always based on facts or, the whole story.
Right, it's like people are ready to judge before all the evidence is even out.
And that can be really damaging, especially for the accused.
Yeah, even if they're later found innocent, that damage is already done.
Exactly. Their reputation, their career, it can all be affected.
So what can we do about this? I mean, how do we make sure people aren't judged prematurely by the media?
Well, I think a big part of it is being more critical of what we read and see.
Okay.
Don't just take everything at face value question. The sources look for different perspectives.
So not just relying on one news outlet or social media post.
Right. Diversify your sources, get the full picture.
That makes sense. And I guess we also need to be aware of bias in the media.
Definitely every news outlet has its own slant, its own agenda.
So how can we spot that?
Well, by reading different sources, you start to notice those patterns, how certain outlets frame the story.
Okay, so it's like being a detective almost.
Yeah, you got to do your own investigation.
To figure out what's really going on.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to challenge the narrative. Think for yourself.
This is a lot to think about, for sure.
It is. It's a complex issue.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, is there a question you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, I think the big question here is, how can we each contribute to creating a more just system, especially when it comes to these kinds of allegations?
Yeah, it's not just about the legal system. It's about society as a whole.
Exactly. It requires all of us to think critically, to be empathetic, to engage in these tough conversations.
I think this deep dive has really given our listeners a lot to consider.
I hope so.
And hopefully it'll spark some important discussions.
Definitely the conversation needs to continue.
Thanks for joining us today. This has been a really eye-opening deep dive.
My pleasure. Always happy to chat.
And to our listeners, until next time, keep asking those tough questions and keep diving deep. MASE.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till